everyone, and welcome back to our Develop podcast. We are excited to be back with you all as we continue to connect, grow, and inspire together. Joining us today is Caleb Robison, Dallas Audit Senior Manager. Caleb has more than 7 years of public accounting experience focused on both public and private clients in distribution and manufacturing, professional services, retail, and technology industries. He also has 1 year of experience as the senior controller of a private equity firm and is a KPMG alum, which we will certainly get into during this episode. Caleb, I'm so excited you are here and welcome to our Develop podcast.
Thanks, Danielle, for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right, well, let's jump right in. So tell us a little bit about you first. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you attend college? And what degrees do you hold?
Yeah, so I grew up in Houston, lived there my whole life until going to college at Baylor. I did a 5-year program there, the undergraduate in accounting and economics, and then a graduate degree in just a master's of accountancy. I have my CPA. That's the only professional certification that I have.
Awesome. Well, it's a good one to have. So tell us, why Baylor? Were there any other schools you were considering, and ultimately what landed you on pursuing a degree in accounting?
Yeah, so I went to Baylor. My whole family went there. My brother's parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, great aunts, great uncles. I think I was number 30 or 40 something in my family, so it was kind of a rite of passage. But being the youngest kid, I kind of almost revolted, and I was flirting with Texas A&M, and my dad actually told me he thought I was going to go there. And on my official visit to A&M halfway through, I just looked at my dad and was like, I hate it here. Can we go? So he was pretty happy about that. But I kind of was always going to Baylor. It's just kind of what I was raised. But, I mean, I liked it because the size of it, I thought it was big enough where you're always meeting new people, but also small enough where you can kind of find your place. It wasn't so overwhelming like Texas A&M and UT were. And I also like the Christian aspect of it, the Christian focus of it.
Love that. And accounting, were you always set on that, or how did you land on that?
No, I mean, my mom's a school teacher. My dad's a scientist. I love math, and I hated science. And so I kind of just went business because I was like, well, I want to be a math teacher, so I want to major in math. So I was kind of, well, I can do business that has a lot of numbers in it. And so I was torn between accounting and finance, and I was going to do both of them. And I had an advisor talking me out of finance, and they said it would be too hard to do both. And so I didn't really know any better. I just kind of picked accounting, and that's where I just added economics onto it. But I just kind of fell into it. I ended up really liking it and enjoying it, so I guess it was lucky in the end. But no one from my family had ever done business before, so I was kind of in unknown territory.
Yeah, well, certainly a good major to fall into. So take us back. You're a young, eager college accounting student about to start the recruiting process. How was that like for you back when you were going through it, and how did you make your decision on where to intern and start out your career?
Yeah, so I was definitely very nervous. Growing up, I was always really shy and hated public speaking, hated interviewing, hated all of that stuff. I wasn't very self-confident. I think that goes back to having speech issues my whole life. I was in mandatory speech through my elementary, middle school, high school, all the way up until senior year of high school, and I finally passed out of it or placed out of it. But I guess I was always really shy and didn't have a lot of self-confidence. So I was definitely nervous. I wish I could go back and tell myself to lighten up. But I definitely was focused on going to Big Four. At Baylor, they kind of pushed that. All my friends were going Big Four. And that's how I ended up in Dallas. I was from Houston, but my parents had moved away from Houston when I was in college. And so I didn't have any family in Houston. And all my friends at Baylor were moving to Dallas-Fort Worth. So I kind of was like, well, I'll just go Big Four in Dallas. That's what all my friends are doing. And if I don't like it, then after the internship, I'll do something else.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your internship experience. What was that like? I think KPMG, right?
Yeah, KPMG, Dallas, Audit. I really enjoyed it. Made a lot of good friends. I met my wife on the internship. A number of good friends that I still keep in touch with today. As far as the work environment, I was only on 2 clients. I had one client my first week, and then every week after that, I was on the same client. So it was a little unique. Most of my friends kind of probably saw 3 clients, but I only saw 2. I think I liked it at the time because I liked the team and I liked the client, and I got to kind of get my foot in the door and get established there. But looking back, I wish I had seen more, different clients, different industries, and kind of had that breadth of experience. I feel like on the internship, that's kind of the point of it. And so looking back, I wish that had been different, but at the same time, I'm not sure I really knew any better, to be honest.
Good. So it sounds like it was a great experience. And you probably learned a lot too. So you develop a lot of skills in school and then as a young professional. And certainly a lot of these skills I'm sure you still use throughout your career right now. What would you say your biggest takeaways and learning experiences were early on, and how have they played a role in your personal and professional growth?
Yeah, so number one, I think was confidence. I was definitely shy and reserved growing up, and I kind of learned to just be more confident, be more assertive. I don't dread public speaking now like I used to, but I kind of forced myself to, do some trainings at KPMG, some national trainings that I was very much dreading when I kind of forced myself to do it, but looking back on it, I was very happy I did it. I think also just a work ethic. I was kind of a little prideful, I guess conceited coming out of college. I thought I was smart, but you learn pretty fast. You don't know anything, and so you got to really have a good work ethic, be organized, and don't be afraid to ask questions and admit that you don't know what you're doing. No one really expects you straight out of school to know everything, and even as you progress in your career, from intern to staff to senior, I still don't expect all my seniors to know everything. So I actually think it's a sign of strength when someone says, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me or walk me through this?" I'd rather have that happen than someone spin their wheels and take a shot at it and completely miss the boat.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. So were there any struggles or setbacks you experienced as a young professional, early on in your career, and walk us through how you overcame those, maybe some tips and tricks that you still use today?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest setback was just getting an internship. So at Baylor, everyone gets an internship and almost everyone gets what they want. I'd say my year probably 80 to 90% went Big Four, and they got one of the 2 or 3 Big Fours that they wanted. I was a little different. I had office visits with 2 of the Big Four, and due to travel, I couldn't go to the normal office visits, so I went later. And at that time, one of the firms, which sold nameless, had already filled up all their spots, and so you just basically canceled on me because I couldn't go during the normal office visit. And by the time I went, they're like, "Well, sorry, we're full. We had more people accept than we were expecting, so we don't have any more spots." And so all I had left was KPMG, and then KPMG just didn't give me an offer. And I don't know this for sure, but asking around, I feel like I was one of the only ones who went there but didn't get an offer. I never really got a straight answer why. I know I wasn't super outgoing back then, so maybe I just had a really bad interview. But so I was kind of left there saying, okay, well, I don't have an internship. And all summer, I was kind of trying to find one. And one of my professors at Baylor, Dr. Thomas, had a good relationship with him. And he just, he knew that my number one choice was KPMG. So without me knowing, he just called a partner in Dallas that he knew very well, explained my situation, and convinced, maybe convinced isn't the right word, but that partner decided to extend me an offer. So I remember being in class one day in September, October, fall semester, and just getting a text from my professor, "Hey, come to my office." And I was like, "Well, I'm in class, I'll come." He's like, "No, come right now." So I left class and went in his office, and he just handed me the phone, and it was one of the partners in KPMG Dallas. And he's like, "Hey, I'm overnighting you an offer. Sign it and send it back." And so very grateful to Dr. Thomas for that. I met my wife at KPMG, so I never know what my life would be like without that. But it also showed me that don't take anything for granted, but at the same time, relationships matter. I don't think Dr. Thomas would have done that for just any one of his students. So not like, I think he would have done it for a number of his students, but it wouldn't have just been for anyone. So it was a humbling experience, I have to admit, but it all worked out in the end.
Yeah. I think things certainly work out the way they're supposed to, and love that you touched on the power of relationships, which is great advice for really anyone at any level in your career. And you never know where a certain connection or relationship is going to take you. So, so you spend some time at KPMG and then decide to make a change out of public accounting. Walk us through that and how you ended up as a senior controller.
Yeah, so I got kind of burned out of audit. I think some of it was not always doing the best job of saying no or knowing how to say no. And not always even saying no, but saying yes, but then explaining everything else I had going on. I feel like I was always more chargeable than a lot of my friends, and for whatever reason, and I just kind of got to the point where I was kind of tired and burned out. And at the same time, I guess, I was a senior manager at that point in time, and the next step is partner, or MD and then partner. And I guess, I didn't see myself being a partner there. A lot of respect for the partners that I knew there, and they're great people, but it just wasn't what I saw myself doing. And I think some of it, honestly, is my wife had left KPMG as a senior, and she was at a small private equity company and absolutely loved it. She loved the people she worked with. She loved what she did. And I think her having so much job satisfaction and me not really kind of was like, well, hey, what if I had what she had? So I went to a private equity firm myself. My number one selling point was that it was supposed to be 50-50 accounting and finance. Mm-hmm. They were a small private equity firm, only a couple years old as a company. And so they didn't have a CFO. I was kind of going to hopefully have a chance to grow into that role. But I realized pretty fast I didn't really like being on that side of the table from an accounting standpoint. Month end close, quarter end close, year end close, all kind of get to be the same after a while. And on the finance side, I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It definitely sounds, a lot of people who you say accounting and finance, I think people are like, oh, I'd rather be in finance. And, just for me personally, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
So that kind of led me back into public accounting.
Very interesting. So but ultimately what working in industry, did that teach you anything different than maybe public accounting didn't?
Yeah,
skills you took with you?
It gave me a lot more respect and empathy for our clients. I think I kind of always understood what it was like to be in industry and to be a controller, to be a CFO. There's a lot more things that they have to deal with than I ever even considered. And I learned that pretty quickly on the job. It was like in industry, I was like, oh man, I never even realized that I had to, be responsible for A, B, and C, and never even crossed my mind. So I definitely have a lot more empathy and respect for them. I also think it helps me give advice better. A lot of times clients ask us for advice, but, we know how to audit, but if you've never been on the other side, you don't really always know what you're talking about. But having worked in an ERP system, helped implement a new ERP system, try to, grow the accounting role and, define who does what and all that. I've kind of had a little experience doing that, and I definitely learned from my mistakes. And so I think it gives me a good opportunity to give advice to my clients, at least to say, hey, here's what I messed up on. Don't do what I did, if nothing else.
Yeah, love that. And then you land at Whitley Penn. Tell us how that happened, and what were you looking for in that career change? I know you kind of touched on that.
Yeah, so I realized pretty fast in industry that I like public accounting. I like auditing. It doesn't sound the most interesting, but when you get to manager or partner, it's a lot more of making decisions and problem solving and risk assessment. It's not just looking at invoices and check copies. And I definitely miss the younger culture at a public accounting firm. I miss the teaching and mentoring aspects of that. But I didn't want to go back to a Big Four because I realized, I didn't want to be in industry. I did like working for a smaller company, a middle market company, and that was more what I enjoyed. I didn't miss the large multinational clients that I worked with. Great companies, but that just wasn't what I was interested in doing. And so the more and more I talked to a couple of the partners at Whitley Penn, I realized that it was a good fit for me, both based on the clients that we served and also the culture.
Love that. Well, I know we're glad to have you here. So what are some, the things you focus on professionally? Let's talk about those things. What type of clients do you primarily work with? And walk us through your growth over the years and at each level.
Yeah, so I mostly focus on SEC or public companies, just mainly with my over 7 years of experience at KPMG. That's almost all I did there. And so here at Whitley Penn, I think probably 75% of my year is focused on SEC clients, just because that's where I have the most experience. I mainly do manufacturing, distribution, retail, technology, professional services. That's one thing about Big Four is they definitely pencil you into an industry more than we do. And so I'd say my background and what I do is definitely a lot more limited than most of my peers here at Whitley Penn, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. And at this stage of my career, I'm not really honestly looking to go learn new industries or things I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of established and this is what I do. And thankfully there's enough of those companies in the Dallas market that I stay plenty busy.
Yeah. And what are some things that you love most about what you get to do? I'm sure it's fun. You touched on making the transition to more of a leadership role, and now you get to focus more on developing future leaders. So what do you love most about what you do?
The people I work with is probably the number one reason that I came back to public accounting is, to be honest, that's what kept me at KPMG as long as I did, was I liked the people I worked with, and that was the thing in industry that I missed the most. And it's just that the young culture of people who, in general, are very motivating and driven and want to keep learning. And where they stay in public accounting their whole lives or not, they're here for a reason. They want to learn. They want to grow. I also really enjoy, the teaching aspect of it. I don't really do any trainings anymore, but on the job training, teaching the seniors and staff, investing in them. I really enjoy it. I was almost a professor coming out of college. I decided I didn't want to do that full time, but I like that aspect of auditing and, public accounting. You're always going to have those opportunities to teach and invest in people. And in mentoring, whether it's through our formal staff accountability coach program or informally, just getting to know, staff and seniors and trying to help them along in their career. Mainly by telling them all the things that I did wrong that I wish I had known back then. And who knows, maybe they don't listen to me because I'm old now, but hopefully I can impart a little wisdom on them.
I love that. So you are involved in our current campus development efforts, it's so awesome to have you part of that team, especially since you bring a good perspective with having time spent at Big Four and also in industry. What excites you most for young professionals just getting started in their careers, and how important is it to get involved in these efforts internally within your firm or organization?
I think recruiting it's extremely important for public accounting firms. It's, I'd say, the most important thing that we do, because our people are our most important asset. You have to have good people, not just quality people from a work product standpoint, but also people who fit your culture. Because let's face it, our culture is the number one thing that attracts people to us and keeps people here. And so it's extremely important. I try and tell everyone, especially younger people, like, do recruiting, get involved. You can't complain about recruiting if you don't do it. And it directly benefits you. You want interns and new staff to be people that you like, so go recruit the people that you want. And my approach to recruiting is just to try and be honest, being in Big Four, middle market, public accounting, and also in industry. I just try and be honest about, hey, here's what I really liked about each of these stops. Here's what I didn't like as much. And here's why I made the decision to go to do what I've done. And, I definitely don't try and trick anybody, because it doesn't do us any good to have someone come here and then realize 6 months in it's not what they wanted. They won't be happy and they'll just leave. So it's all about making relationships, and hopefully we can just get people to come here who want to be here. And, a lot of people I talk to don't end up coming to Whitley Penn. That's perfectly fine, because it might not be the place for them right now. But in the end, it's really exciting. They have their whole career ahead of them. And if you had told me back when I was in college that I would be sitting here today, I would have thought you were crazy. It's just exciting. You never know where your career is going to take you. And you definitely change. My values and what's important to me has definitely changed over time. So I always try and remind them that you never know where life's going to take you. So just go where you feel the most comfortable now, and it's a crazy ride, and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's so important to touch on, how many opportunities young professionals and students really have for them to start out in their career early on and really make it a long-term career for themselves, being at a place they want to be. So professionalism is super important, right, in any industry we're in. What mentalities do you think are the most important to adopt, and how can anyone at any level find personal and professional success?
I think the most important thing for me is having a good attitude, especially coming out of college, whether it's an intern or, starting out full-time in a new job. No one expects you to know anything, but the number one thing you control is having a good attitude. Be willing to work hard. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because you're not going to know it all, and we don't expect you to know it all. But, to be honest, whatever job it is, whether it's public accounting or any other career, as an intern or as a first-year new hire, the things that you're doing aren't always going to be super interesting. And some of that just is what it is, and you can't control it, but you can't control your attitude. And sometimes you have to do the grunt work. I know I didn't want to do it, and I always didn't have a great attitude. But by showing you have a good attitude and that you can be successful doing the initial task that you get assigned, then people will start to gain trust in you and give you more and more challenging tasks. So that's my always biggest advice, is just try and have a good attitude and be willing to learn and willing to work hard.
Yeah, attitude and effort will take you a long way. So you've been involved in organizations outside of the office. What specific organizations are you either currently involved in or have been involved with? And what are the biggest benefits to allocating your time spent to those organizations?
Yeah, so most of my volunteer work here in Dallas has been through my wife and our church, the church that we go to. And to be honest, now we don't volunteer and as much as we used to. When we were younger and single, I feel like we had some more time on our hands. Kids and frankly, COVID has kind of taken a hit into that. But I think it's extremely important, for me personally. It always reminds me of one, how blessed I am, and two, what's the most important thing in life. Sometimes we get so caught up in our career and how much money we make, especially in Dallas. There's that stigma of, the career is the most important thing. And, it's great to realize that no, there are more important things in life. And no matter how busy you feel like you are, you always have time to give back or money to give back to something that's more important. It's really grounding for me personally. And I think it's just something that we all should do, but it's also a lot of, it benefits yourself to give back to, not just whoever you're giving back to.
Yeah, love that. So tell me what you love doing outside of the office. I know you've got 2 little kids at home, another on the way. So what is home life like, and how do you find balance between home and work?
Yeah, so life at home, my wife and I have been married for 7 years now. We have 2 girls. Caroline is 3 and Eleanor is 1. We call her Ellie. And our third is on the way. The baby will be here in a month, I think. Probably September 16th. So maybe about the time this podcast is going out. We don't know if it's a boy or girl yet. It's a surprise, so that's exciting, I guess. But yeah, home life is definitely a lot different than it used to be when my wife and I were younger, pre-kids. We traveled the world, and that's definitely our number one hobby and interest. And we don't get to do that as much anymore, both with kids and with COVID. But right now we're super busy because our kids keep us busy, A, and B, we bought our house and we're renovating it, and we just got done doing the kitchen. So it's exciting, but it's also a lot of work and sometimes a lot of headache, but we enjoy it.
Yeah. Do you find it's easy to balance home and work life?
Yes and no. I mean, busy season. I mean, thankfully my wife was in public accounting, so she gets it. And busy season, yes, there's always going to be, you have more hours during those 3 months of the year than the rest of the year. But the good thing about audit is, for the most part, I know when I'm going to be busy, and I know when I won't be busy. And so that really helps us to make a good plan. And, when I'm not busy, I really try and enjoy the times when I'm not busy. And, I definitely do a lot more with my kids during those times. And then when I am super busy, I still make it a point to go home for dinner and, be around on the weekends as much as I can. But my wife's a great partner. She has a very steady job, so it kind of works for us, having her with a very steady job with steady hours, and me kind of I'm either really busy or I'm really not busy. But we enjoy it, and it's definitely. I always make sure to take my time off. Just me personally, I need to recharge, and I don't want to get burned out. And I think that's extremely important for everyone. Sometimes younger people think it's kind of work on through, and I'm young, I can work hard, and we all need time to recharge, but we make it work.
Yeah, great tip to use that time off, and you really need a break, and teamwork definitely makes the dream work. So love to hear that. So what are some things that inspire you, and do you have any advice for anyone maybe feeling lost in what they're currently doing or bogged down by any obstacles they're facing professionally or even personally?
Yeah, I kind of just touched on it, but I think taking some time to yourself is extremely important. We all get burned out and get to a point where we need some time off, some time to recharge, and whether that's taking some time off to travel or just taking some time off to sit at home and sit on the couch. Sometimes people don't want to ask for time off because they're busy, or they don't, they feel like, oh man, I feel like I need to work hard and I want to prove myself, but it's extremely important. And for me, I look back at my career and the times that I've been the most unhappy. I realize that I just haven't raised my hand and be like, hey, I've been going strong for a number of months. I need a couple of days or I need a week to kind of relax.
Yeah.
And it's for everyone's best interest. For you personally, I think it's better for the firm too to have people who can have some time off to get recharged.
Love that. I heard this great line from an event and said, we appreciate you, but we appreciate you even more after a vacation. So that stuck with me, and I was like, I think that's so true. But it's definitely important to do that. So if you could be doing anything else professionally right now, what would you be doing and why? I know you said being a professor was maybe at the top of your list. Your mom would be so proud.
Yeah, not anymore. I think I wanted that more when I was younger. I've always wanted to own my own business and kind of work for myself, but I toyed with that idea a lot more when I was younger. Now with a family and kids, I think stability is a lot more important to me now. And, when I was younger, career is the most important thing, and now I realize it's not. And so I don't think I would ever do that now, but that's probably the thing that over my life I've thought the most about, but I don't think it's in the cards for me, which is completely fine. I'm at peace with it.
Yeah, so public accounting for the rest of your life. We love that. So trends are always changing, updating, evolving. How do you stay updated on new trends, and what resources do you rely on to keep you up to speed with what's going on, and how to stay connected within our industry and even as a professional and leader for your team?
Yeah, I find it hard, especially with having kids now and how busy we are. It's just hard to keep up with what's going on in the world. And so I do a couple of things. One is I get email alerts for all my clients. So anytime they're in the news, I get an email to my inbox. I subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, and I get the Morning Brew daily emails. So every morning I have an email from them in my inbox. I don't always read them, but I try and not get too far behind. It just keeps me up to date on what's going on in the world of business and politics and everything else. And then we also get the daily emails from CCX2 for accounting standards updates or anything like that. So professionally, what's going on in our industry. And I like the emails because if I'm busy one day, I can just leave them unread and hopefully get back to them in a day or two. But sometimes they stack up on me.
Yeah, they do stack up, don't they? And lastly, any books, podcasts, shows, or recommendations you have to leave with our audience? They could be on growth and development or just some personal recommendations. So what's grabbing your attention right now?
Oh man, I was hoping that you wouldn't ask this question because, to be honest, right now with renovating our house and kids, I haven't been doing any reading or any podcast listening, to be honest. And as far as TV goes, my 3-year-old is obsessed with Daniel Tiger, and my wife controls the controller when the girls are asleep. So it's either Daniel Tiger or Big Brother right now. For my wife's really into Big Brother, so I don't really have a lot to answer on
there
that.
You go.
Unfortunately,
helps your mind relax and not think about work or business, right?
It could be worse. And I've seen some of the other things that kids watch, and Daniel Tiger is definitely not the worst.
Yeah. Well, that's sweet of you to let your girls control that. So I think that's a good tip to share. But Caleb, thank you again for joining me today and sharing your story with our audience. I look forward to watching your continued growth and success, and I know we are so lucky to have you on our team.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
And as always, I'd love to connect with each one of you on LinkedIn and engage with you as you're all developing in your careers. So feel free to reach out, and thank you for joining us today.